Episode 3 is here and we are ready to go. It is another jam-packed episode for you. We've got 2 unbeaten teams left. We also have 2 teams that have yet to win a game. So we're going to do things a little bit different this episode. We're actually going to start with those 4 games rather than going conference by conference. We've got 15 games in week 4 and only a handful of conference games. Like I said, we're going to start with those undefeated and defeated teams, starting in Murfreesboro, Tennessee. Marshall driving early, and they're going to get a read option, and there is nobody there for the quarterback. That's an easy touchdown. This Middle Tennessee defense was the best in the country in terms of points per game allowed, had not given up more than 10 points at any point this season. They have now given up 14, and Marshall is on the verge of scoring again. This is an uncharacteristic performance for the Blue Raiders, and check out that throw on the run over the head of the middle linebacker. Now 24-14 here in the third quarter, and it just gets worse. Middle Tennessee State would try a late rally, but it wouldn't work, losing 42-28, and let's just say Doc Hudson had some choice words in his post-game press conference. What we saw on the field today was utterly pathetic, at home nonetheless. I'm embarrassed for the people of Murfreesboro. They should not have to root for that pile of shit that showed up today. We're going to have 2-a-day practices and 5-mile runs on the hills until we win again. The defense better figure it the fuck out. Otherwise, heads will roll. Thank you. Have a blessed night. That leaves 1 undefeated team left, and the Chants faced an early deficit against South Alabama, but they would proceed to go on a 21-point run capped off by this touchdown. After a South Alabama score makes it a 1-possession game, Coach Goon decides to go for it on his own 33 on 4th and 1, and that pass is incomplete. South Alabama takes over. And like we saw with Ohio against West Virginia, they make them pay right away. Now we need the 2-point conversion, otherwise it means nothing. And the Jaguars would convert. Would we be going to overtime again, or would we finish this one in regulation? I said it last week, but there's some sort of higher power happening here as Coastal remains undefeated with the 38-31 victory. We now move to our winless teams, and we're going to start with Missouri State, who goes for it on 4th and 3 here. They pick it up and score a touchdown to take the early 7-0 lead there in the first quarter. And they wouldn't find the end zone again until late in the third quarter, where it takes a lot of effort to get in, but they do. They try to go for 2 to extend it to a 2-possession game, but they miss it, which is key because FCS Southeast would score on this play and be able to tie it up right before regulation. So we head to overtime. Bears start with possession. They hand it off, and they find the end zone, and now they just need a stop. 4th and 26 for their first win of the season. Can someone be a hero? Pocket collapsing, he's just got to heave one up, and that ball falls incomplete. Missouri State has finally done it. It took OT, but like I've said before, a win is a win, and Missouri State can now put a notch in that left column. And Utah State's first win would not be as difficult. Mid-first quarter, 3rd and long, and Bryson Barnes has his guy wide open. That's Corey Thompson, and that won't be the last time that we see him, because on the very last drive before the end of the first half, Barnes, Thompson, yet again. How about a 3rd time, though? Late in the 4th quarter, listen, this game is already over. Let's just put one more on the head of the Groupers defense. Thompson, a hat trick on the day, and that is a Aggies W for the first time this season. Let's keep the good momentum rolling. There was a team last week that was winless, but came in and beat an FCS opponent this week. They traveled to the Aloha State to see if they can turn one into an extended win streak. And this game was a good one. Fresno State down 17-13, but they find the end zone here to take the 20-17 lead. And this one just kept getting better. Minute 15 left in this ball game. Hawaii finds the end zone to take the 4-point lead, in Fresno State trying to answer. They don't have any timeouts left. They have to go no huddle here. And this one is going to come down to quite literally the last play of the ball game. Here's the snap, and they're going to run it. Are you kidding me? It doesn't matter. Touchdown, Bulldogs. They get another win. And you have to hear Coach Sonnenberger after the game.
What a win. You know, there's some times where you just have to trust your players, and you know, we trusted our players right there at the end. You know, we have an opportunity to win the game. We're stuck in hurry up. We don't have any timeouts, and you know, that was EJ's call. That was EJ's call right there to run the ball. And you know, if it doesn't work out, it's a completely different story right here. But it works. We win the game. Yeah, that's just beautiful. You can't ask for anything better than that. You really can't. Victory's sweet. We're 2-3 on the year now. And once we get into the meat potatoes of the Mountain West schedule, we can make a bowl here, boys. So that's the messaging in the locker room. And just, yeah, what a win. What a win. Wow.
Now it's on to San Diego State, where the Aztecs are trying to get back in the win column. And this throw and catch will certainly help. Denegal showing off the cannon yet again. Feel like we see that every week from him. But the Golden Bears would punch back, and they would punch back hard. Already scoring 7. They're going to add another 7 right here. As you can't whiff like that if you want to make plays on the defensive side of the ball. We've seen some poor angles and tackling from this Aztec defense, something they need to clean up. Now down 24-7. They'll add a little bit here, but it would just get away from them as they lose 45-14 and drop to 1-2 on the season. And San Jose State is in the same situation, coming off of a tough loss and a bye from Texas. They needed a win desperately, and this is a candidate for play of the year. How many tackles can you possibly break on one play? Yeah, showboat on your way to the end zone. You earned that one, young man. That 21-7 lead would hold until late in the third quarter, when in the red zone, FCS Northwest is able to find pay dirt and make this a one-possession game. But there wasn't much to worry about, as San Jose State would add on 2 more, win 35-14. 2-1 now for Aiden Crowley's Spartans as they look to position themselves well for Mountain West play. We had another user versus user game. Both teams have played one already, and it would be Nevada getting on the board first. But Western Kentucky would have the answer. It's going to be a QB sneak, which isn't flashy, but it gets them on the board and ties this game up. So Nevada gets a field goal, and now it's Western Kentucky's turn to get their first lead in this game. But Maverick McIver is going to make a very poor decision and throw that one into coverage, and that is going back the other way for 7 for the Wolfpack. The great thing about football, though, is you always have the chance for redemption. McIver rolling out of the pocket. He's going to uncork this one, and his running back comes down with it, and he scores. I mean, that is a true jaw-dropping play. Now, Nevada would add another 7 here on this play, and of course, the EA servers desync this game not once, but 2 times, and so it says 20-13, but Nevada was up 24-14. They get the force win. A little anticlimactic for what was such a fun first half in that ball game. Halfway through the game so far in week 4, we're going to turn our attention to South Florida, where the Blue Hens were looking to make it 2 in a row. And I'm sure you're waiting for the Jake Britell touchdown, but it's actually not going to come here as Marker pitches it to Silver. He cuts upfield, and he's going to fight his way into the end zone. Coach Mo Shiesty is very pleased with that ball carrier vision right there. Now 14-6 Delaware, and Marker says he's going to do this one himself. He pulls the ball down, scrambles for that pylon, reaches inside the corner, and gives Delaware the 28-13 lead. We now move to Jacksonville State, where it feels like Gavin Wimsatt leads the league in big-time throw percentage, because every single week we see him pull something out just like that, leading to 7 points, and eventually a big win for the Gamecocks. And listen, it's mostly offensive touchdowns in these highlights, and I understand that. But when you get a big man that's rumbling, bumbling, stumbling his way to the end zone, you gotta put it in. Jacksonville State wins big as they look like a team to beat. Maybe that Georgia Southern loss really woke them up. I think it goes to show you just how good the depth of the games were this week, that we haven't even gotten to some of the better ones because they actually came out of the MAC. We went into this week expecting there to be a lot of blowouts and a lot of predictable finishes, but we got anything but. And we're going to start in probably the most surprising outcome of the week. The Falcons marched into Louisville looking to pull off the upset of the season so far, and that touchdown helped cut into the deficit. It would allow them to put themselves in a position right here where they're down 16-10, but now they're up 17-16. If you told me Bowling Green would be leading at any point in this game, I would tell you you're insane. Louisville would respond, and they would respond again 31-17, but Bowling Green had the answer, and it was just this kind of game. But unfortunately, the Falcons come up short and lose 31-24. Valiant effort, though, for P. Rizzi's Falcons. Now, Buffalo has struggled to get things going early in this season, but a red zone interception right there would be huge because here's what happened on the very next play. Yeah, that's right. Nobody touches him. A.J. Henderson is gone, and this would just be the start of what was a historic day for the Buffalo running back, and they would need it if they wanted any hope at winning, as Troy extends the lead to 17 right before the half. Do they have any second half magic? This is a team that has not been a second half team at all this season. Well, Henderson says, I got your magic right here. 24-14 now, and they're back in the red zone. And of course, you got to go to the man that has gotten you here. Henderson takes the sweep. He finds the end zone for the third time so far today. This man would finish with 234 yards on the ground. The defense would have to step up just one more time, and it's hard to beat a guy that has the force on his side. What in the world was that? He would run untouched for a 77-yard touchdown. Now, the ensuing PAT gets blocked, and why is this big? Because if Buffalo picks this up, which they do, and run it back, which they will, this is going to be a 7-point ball game and allow Buffalo to stay in this. Now, 4th and 3, they need to get this to keep the game alive, and Henderson, who had been so good all day, gets stuffed, and the Bulls fall to 1-3. Coach Janus after the game. Man, I love All-J Henderson. 234 yards on the ground. That's how you fucking do it. Put your head down and hit somebody. Loved his effort today. O-line did their part. They deserve just as much credit. Them boys need some syrup. Dottie 9 pancakes. Brock with 8. They couldn't stop us up front. Turnovers continue to be a real problem. Taquan has 15 picks and no touchdowns this year. He's going to have to show me something in practice this week or changes are coming. Defensively, I thought our team played solid. Capo and the boys did a lot of great things. Still struggling giving up the big plays, but that can be worked on. Back to the lab as we get into MAC play next week. Thanks, everyone. You have to feel good at least about how that way the game ended. Now, Ohio is looking to go to 2-2. They're finally done with the Power 4 teams and can focus on beating up on an FCS opponent. C.A. Bangura finds the end zone right there. Now up 21-7 as we head into the break. They're going to add one more. Parker Navarro throws this one up for Bruno. He's going to come down with it. 49-14 is your final big win. Have to imagine the Bobcats are feeling pretty good. And I know Toledo was feeling really good coming into this one, riding a 2-game win streak after that opening loss to Kentucky. But they're not feeling good about how this one started. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that in all of my days watching football. That is truly unlucky. But Tucker Gleason is the man again today. He just has this uncanny ability to find the guys that need the ball in their hands. And it's put the Rockets in a really good position so far this season. But we go back and forth yet again. It seems like Toledo's been in these kinds of games all year long. And Western Michigan, right before the half, is going to throw this one up to the corner. And again, it looks like the Force is out here. Do these people know the Jedi that we're playing? And now we're pulling out a fake spike randomly in the third quarter. I have no idea what's going on, but it's Trayvon Rudolph from Tucker Gleason. We've become accustomed to that pairing, but this Western Michigan touchdown would change everything about this game. They would get the ball back, 1st and goal, and they're going to find the end zone yet again. And what happens when you get down? You start to press a little too much because there would be another turnover on downs, and Western would put the icing on the cake, and it would be brutal too. Check out the stiff arm as they go down 37-21. A bit of a shocker there for Coach Cam King and his boys. We're going to head a couple miles east from where we were at Ypsilanti, Michigan, where Louisiana made the long trek up. They're already down 16-0 here late in the first half. and it's going to get worse. That is an errant throw. I really don't know what Walker Howard was doing there, but now you're in a 23-0 hole, and it's late in the third quarter. I mean, this game is pretty much all but over. At least that's what you would think, but the Raging Cajuns did not have quit in them. Now down 30-7, they're going to find the end zone yet again. It wasn't Walker Howard's best game, but the resiliency he showed late in this game to keep the Raging Cajuns in it is what you want out of your quarterback. They find the end zone again. The 2-point conversion here is huge. It'll make it a one-score ball game. And guess what? They're going to get it. This game is peak college football. You just need your defense to make one more stop. They just need to get off the field. Instead, they're going to give up a touchdown. I just don't know what's going on with some of the defenders this week. And the Eagles would stun the Raging Cajuns 40-22. That's a tough loss for Hingle McCringleberry and company. Let's take a look back at scores from across the league, and we saw a few more upsets than I think we were anticipating. Middle Tennessee State falls, Toledo falls, Louisiana falls, and we almost saw Bowling Green pull off the biggest upset of the season. We also saw Coastal Carolina continue their unbeaten streak, and we saw the final two winless teams in Missouri State and Utah State pick up huge wins, albeit against FCS opponents. So they still haven't beaten that FBS team, but it's a win, right? They got in that win column. We saw a couple of teams bounce back from tough losses in the last time they played. Overall, I think it was a really good week for a lot of teams. You know, you look at Fresno State, they've got a 2-game winning streak going on, and that's the kind of game that can propel you to a whole new outlook on your season. So I think that everybody is in a really good spot right now, outside of maybe San Diego State, who's kind of reeling after that loss to Cal. They've really just got to do a better job of being consistent throughout all four quarters because they're a good football team. Let's talk about players of the week, and of course it's going to be Alijah Henderson, who's the National Player of the Week. 23 carries, 234 yards, 10.2 a carry, 3 rushing touchdowns. I mean, it's just one of the best days that you're going to see this season. And then in the Mountain West, you got another hat trick. Corey Thompson Jr. goes 5 catches, 133 yards, average of 26.6. That go ball, super friendly from Bryson Barnes. You know, those 3 touchdowns led his team to their first victory of the season, so that's big stuff and rightfully gives him the Mountain West Offensive Player of the Week. As we move to week 5, the big question is going to be, how do some of these teams respond to losses? And how do others continue to stack wins and get to bowl eligibility and get to that top of the mountain in their conference race? We've got 2 Power 4 games left on the schedule. San Jose State and Stanford, UMass at Missouri. We've got conference games starting back up. We've got a great group of 5 game in App State traveling to Boise State. This week, there's not many games, but the quality of game is much better than I think it's been at any point so far in this league. So this is going to be the week that you start to see big things happening and taking shape and really get an idea of who these teams are. And we're going to start in a place we've already been before as we try another Power 4 upset. That's right, we're going back to Columbia to see if UMass can pull it off. Make sure you have your popcorn ready because this one is insane. Rose is going to find his tight end in the end zone to cut this to 3 before the half, right to the fourth quarter. Now, it's a 2017 ball game. This field goal will determine the rest of the game, and it is true. That means we're going to overtime yet again. The Minutemen get 3 in the first overtime. They need to stop here, rally and tackle. It's all you ask for. They do. Missouri kicks the field goal. Now, Missouri starts with the ball. And Prabula is going to find his guy, Ahmad Hardy, out of the backfield. This is going to set him up with great field position. And this UMass defense did a great job bowing up in the red zone, but Prabula breaks the tackle and throws the touchdown pass. That one is a backbreaker. They do miss the 2-point conversion, leaving the door wide open for UMass right here as they score the touchdown. All they need to win this ball game now is the 2-point conversion. Otherwise, we're going to a 2-point off. Takes the snap, and Rose is looking for his guy. He's rolling out of the pocket, drifting, overthrows his tight end, which means we do indeed go to the 2-point off. UMass starts first. They get that easily, which means it's Missouri's turn from the 3-yard line. Prabula going to take the snap here, and he's going to find the slant, and now we go to overtime 4. Missouri starting with it this time. Prabula calling out the defense. He's going to take the snap. He's going to roll out of the pocket, and he's got some room to run, and the UMass defense takes some poor angles, and he finds the end zone. It's now UMass's turn. And Rose is going to seed it to his tight end, who is very active late in the game. Back and forth we go. We are now in overtime 5. The Minutemen trying to put this one away. They will get the 2-point conversion. All they need now is a stop. Can they finally keep Pribula and the Missouri offense out of the end zone? Pribula is going to take the snap. He's going to find his running back, Ahmad Hardy, and he dives in the end zone. Are you kidding me? This is now 6 overtimes. We are approaching the record, and it really feels like whoever gets the stop first is going to win, and Pribula gets sacked. Huge play by the Minutemen defense. Now they just need the conversion. Rose takes a snap. He finds the out route, and they do it. UMass pulls off the upset of Missouri in Columbia. Florian Kosminski and his team do the unthinkable. That'll move them to 3-1 on the season. We have our first user conference game of the season as Bowling Green travels to Ohio. They trail 7-0 right now, but not for long. The bubble screen, the broken tackle, and he is off to the races. That'll tie this ball game up. Ensuing drive for the Bobcats. Parker Navarro is going to look deep down the seam, but he's going to be picked off. All of a sudden, the big favorite coming into this game is looking a little shaky. However, they would bow up on defense and get the ball back. And this is all about manipulating the defense. Mason Williams gets behind the backers, and Parker Navarro delivers the beautiful throw. Bobcats back in control. Now up 21-7. Navarro is going to throw another beautiful ball over the middle to go up 21. Now 35-14 coming out of halftime, and that is another Bowling Green interception. And the Falcon defense really did everything they could to put the offense in position to score, and they would this time. Drew Pine is going to look up the seam, and he's going to make a fantastic throw, beating the safety in coverage and finding the end zone. That would make it 35-21, making it a 14-point game, but the Bobcats would find the end zone on a QB sneak as Parker Navarro just beats the defensive tackle to the end zone, and they would go on to win 63-21. Out in Buffalo, the Bulls are trying to get back in the win column, but the UConn Huskies had different plans, getting out to an early 17-0 lead, and it would be 31-0 here towards the end of the second half. Buffalo trying to get something going before the break. Instead, it would be a pick, and that would go the other way for 6. Quarterback change didn't do much here for the Bulls, and Hugh Janus didn't even come out for the second half as the Huskies roll 52-14. Moving over to Toledo, the Rockets were trying to avenge their Week 4 loss to Western Michigan, and they would do so today in big play fashion. Trayvon Rudolph was the star of the show yet again. That one right there went for a lot. This one goes for a lot again as he scores 2 touchdowns on just 3 catches by this point in the game. He is Mr. Big Play in the league's universe. Looking back at our across the league map, we are going to focus on Conference USA next, and we're going to start in Southwest Missouri, where we had another user versus user conference battle. And no, I promise you, this is not deja vu. Western Kentucky starting the game on defense, and it's going to be a pick 6. This is how they started the Toledo game. And if you remember how that one went, they ended up losing 58-28. So it was in the back of head coach Chuck Downfield's mind, but he wouldn't let it get to his team. They would go up 14-0 here with this run. And then Missouri State would finally find the end zone, down 28-3 here in the third quarter. That ball was unloaded by Clark, the little tightrope on the sideline. That would cut into the lead a little bit. They would add a 2-point conversion, but this touchdown run right here from Western Kentucky would put it away for good as the Hilltoppers went 49-26, their third user game in a row, 1-2 coming out of that stretch. Let's check in on the Gamecocks to see how they're doing. They're already up 21-0 on Southern Miss. And I feel like we see this every single week. Gavin Wimsatt, a deep ball to his receiver. That would put them up 28-0. And how about this user lurk right here? And they're going to go the other way. That is a pick 6. I feel like we've seen a lot of those in this episode. And again, Jacksonville State just feels like a team that's got it all going the right way. This draw would put them up big, and they would win 56-10. This team feels like they're the front runner in Conference USA right now. Now we get to Middle Tennessee State, who, as we saw earlier in the episode, they had an embarrassing performance against Marshall. Today, they were looking to atone for their sins, as Coach Doug Hudson said. They would start with this Bryce Butler catch for the touchdown on the drag, and then they would find Amorion Walker up 21-0 already to make it 28-0. This defense had a chip on their shoulder today. They only allowed 92 yards of total offense and didn't allow Kennesaw State to take a single offensive snap on their side of the field. It was truly a dominant performance. 42-0 is your final after this Tyquan Yates touchdown. Blue Raiders back in the win column and 1-0 in conference play. We've got 3 Fun Belt games that we're going to talk about here in week 5, but only one of them is a conference one. It's against a team that we've seen already 2 times, and Marshall is 2-0 against user teams. Would they be able to go to 3-0 traveling to Lafayette, Louisiana? We know exactly what this Marshall offense is capable of, and if you don't keep contained on Zion Turner, he is going to make you pay. And it looks like Louisiana did not learn that, but they'll learn the hard way right here. That is a 63-yard touchdown scamper for the Marshall quarterback. However, Louisiana, unlike Middle Tennessee State or Missouri State before them, would have the answer the next drive. Walker Howard stands in the face of pressure and delivers a beautiful slot fade. And then they would take the lead the next time they touched the ball, finding the drag across the middle of the field. Walker Howard was playing some of his best football here today. And after that first Marshall touchdown, Louisiana went nuclear, outscoring the Thundering Herd 42-23 the rest of the way. They get back in the win column, bouncing back from a tough loss last week. This one is a good one for Hingham McCringleberry and his squad. We now go to Norfolk, Virginia, where Colton Joseph, I think he still may be scoring touchdowns. He had 4 of them today. In fact, every single Old Dominion touchdown today was a Colton Joseph rushing touchdown. And this was a dominant performance for the Monarchs. Defensively, Liberty didn't score until the end of the game. They put up 28 points, were dominant in the red zone. Just an overall fantastic win for Noah Cavan. And I know you guys were looking forward to this one. The blue turf is the scene for this G5 showdown. App State, Boise State. App State trailed, but now on the board, taking the lead. 14-10, it's 14-13 now. And you know this App State team wants to run the football. They find the end zone again right there to go up 21-13, and it would stay that score until the end of the game. Boise State faces a 4th and 7. Game on the line. They're out of timeouts. And Maddox Madsen is going to find his tight end over the middle, finding that soft spot in the defense, and he breaks the tackle, and he's going to score. So not only do they pick up the first down, they pick up the touchdown, but they do need the 2-point conversion. You call your best play here. You don't leave anything to chance, and instead they call one of the worst 2-point plays I have ever seen. The ensuing onside kickoff was recovered by App State, so they secure the W, and Mike Roth is now on a 3-game win streak following that Week 1 loss to Charlotte. And we've got our first major rivalry game here as San Jose State travels to Stanford in a little Bay Area action, and San Jose State is going to get on the board first. And they would even get on the board second as Stanford comes out in this weird goal line personnel on 2nd and 14 from the 30-yard line. I quite literally don't think you will see an easier touchdown than that. I know I say that a lot, but this is just mind-boggling. However, Stanford would eventually find the end zone midway through the 4th quarter. The back of the end zone, Elijah Brown finds his man. And that San Jose State offense really struggled to pull away, which allowed Stanford to stay in this one. And Elijah Brown's going to throw it downfield. And I don't know what the DBs out here are doing, but that's an easy touchdown for Stanford. This game is tied up. But when the Spartans needed the offense to step up, they did. That would be a 21-14 victory and a rivalry win. We now go to Vanderbilt, where the Commodores are looking to hold off a Utah State upset, but it would be Corey Thompson from Bryson Barnes. We know that duo all too well so far this season. That would be their first, and then on 3rd and 17, they would go up 14-0, finding each other again, and that deep ball is a thing of beauty. But listen, Vanderbilt wasn't going to go away easily. Utah State was going to have to work for it if they wanted to pull the upset. Pavia finds his receiver late in the first half to get them on the board. And it would be a tie ball game here halfway through the 3rd quarter. And this would give Vanderbilt their first lead of the game, and they would not look back, winning 34-20. That's the 2nd time this year it really felt like the Aggies had one and they let it get away. And our final game sees the Aztecs traveling all the way to DeKalb, Illinois to take on NIU. And they would start with a touchdown. They really needed this win after their loss to Cal, losing 45-14, just to feel some sort of momentum going into conference play. And right before the half, they would go up 14-0. Denegal finds his guy on the crosser. And that was really all the offense had to offer. They would add another field goal, but it was really the defense that was the star of the show today. They do give up a touchdown here, but they only gave up 10 points. And after giving up 45 to Cal, this was what they really needed. Hopefully the slug, Coach Booth, is feeling much better going into conference play than he was prior to this game. Checking out the scoreboard recap, we had far fewer games this week than we did last week, and we didn't really see anything too crazy outside of the UMass upset over Missouri. Really everything else fell in kind of the way you thought it would. I suppose the San Jose State win over Stanford is a big one to talk about, winning that rivalry game. But other than that, kind of exactly what you thought. App State now on a 3-game winning streak. This time it was the defense that really made a statement, only allowing 19 points to a really good Boise State team. You know, where we stand right now, it really feels like the favorites in each conference, you know, probably Ohio and Toledo at the top of the MAC, and then Jacksonville State is really separating themselves in the Conference USA. Middle Tennessee State would be in that kind of second tier with Delaware. And then you talk about the Sun Belt, it really feels up in the air. Obviously, Coastal Carolina is undefeated, but you're seeing a fantastic defensive performance out of ODU so far this season, and App State really coming into their own. Interested to see where that race goes as we get into conference play. The Mountain West feels really up in the air. San Jose State and Nevada both haven't played their best football, but you would imagine they are probably the front runners in the conference. And then whether or not Utah State figures it out at any point this season, they may be able to throw their hat in the ring. And then San Diego State after that win here today. Are they able to kind of get something going here? And then Fresno State on a 2-game winning streak. Maybe they find themselves, you know, righting the wrongs of the first 3 games, you know, losing by a bajillion points and somehow finding themselves in the thick of this conference race. You know, we'll wait and see on that. Plenty of weeks to go left. This is only week 5, so we still got, you know, a ton of time before we really have to talk about the nitty-gritty of those races. And if you haven't noticed it already, ball security is really not at the top of many people's minds in the league. You can take a look at the interception race that is ongoing so far through 5 weeks of the season. Now, keep in mind, not everybody has played the same number of games. Some guys have played 4, some guys have played 5. What you're seeing, though, is that essentially the top 20 spots are occupied by quite a few players from the league, especially at the top. I mean, I think we have the first 4 guys. No, we have the first, 8 guys. You know, Taquan Robertson got himself benched. Bryson Barnes with 15 interceptions. Drew Pine with 12 himself. Tucker Gleason, even with the 20 touchdowns, he's got 11 interceptions. Parker Navarro's got 11. Justin Clark's got 10. Walker Howard with 10. I mean, really, it is truly inspiring to see how bad these teams are at taking care of the football and somehow find a way to win these ball games. Let's talk about players of the week. Jacob Cruz and Michael Petaway for Jacksonville State take home offensive and defensive player of the week. That is a phenomenal performance from both of those guys. 3 touchdowns from Petaway, a touchdown from Cruz. And then we go to the back, and it's Chase Hendricks. 9 catches, 158 yards, 3 touchdowns against Bowling Green. He really had his way with that Falcon defense. And then Cam Davidson on the defensive side of the ball against Toledo, even though they lost 42-0, got himself Defensive Player of the Week honors. And then it's a Utah State show in the Mountain West. Kendrick Cooks on the defensive side of the ball with 2 INTs and a PBU. And, of course, Corey Thompson is becoming a staple on these 7 catches, 187 yards, and 3 touchdowns with an average of 26.7. He has been lighting up the score sheet so far this season. Very fun player to watch. Really enjoying that Utah State offense. Hopefully they can find a few more wins. That'll do it for us here today. What a jam-packed episode. I told you, there was a lot of unexpected things that happened in that week 4 that, you know, really set us up for an interesting week 5, even though week 5 itself didn't have too many surprising outcomes. The race right now feels like it's anybody's game, right? In terms of the best group of 5 team, in terms of every single conference race. And it's only going to get more muddy and murky as we get into conference play. We have 3 user games in week 6 alone for next episode. So I'm telling you, if you think it's crazy now, this series and this league, the league, is going to continue to heat up and get even more crazy. So you're going to want to make sure that you hit that bell, get the notifications on, hit that subscribe button, because I promise you, you're not going to want to miss any of these episodes. They are truly a good investment of 30, 40 minutes of your time. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Catch you on the flip. See ya.